I've always believed that motherhood changes you in ways nothing else can, not because of the sleepless nights or the scraped knees you kiss better, but because, from the moment that tiny voice first calls you mama, your heart stops belonging to you. My son Adam was born on a rainy Tuesday, a quiet child with the kind of eyes that seemed to see right through people. Even as a boy, he carried calmness in his soul. I used to call him my old little man, when other boys were chasing each other through puddles. Adam was the one standing by the window, watching airplanes carve lines through the clouds. He'd whisper one day, "I'll fly one, Mom," and I'd smile, tousle his hair and say, "And I'll be waiting at the airport, waving from below." That promise stayed between us like a sacred secret. When he grew up, he kept his word. Adam became a pilot, not just any pilot, but the kind who carried compassion in every instruction, respect in every landing, and prayer in every takeoff. He would often say, "Mom, when I'm up there, it feels like God lets me touch peace for a little while." I'd laugh and say, "Then stay humble, my son. The sky accepts only those with light hearts." He'd reply, "And you're my light, Mom." That's how our bond was, not loud, not showy, but deep like roots that never let go. But lately, something in that bond had started to tremble. It began 3 weeks before that call. I remember standing by the kitchen window, stirring my evening tea, when I saw her, Sarah, my son's wife. She was walking up the street, clutching her handbag close, her head low. Something in her body language looked wrong. It wasn't the usual coming back from work kind of tired. It was the kind of weariness people carry when they're hiding something. When she entered, she smiled faintly. "Evening, Mom," she said softly. She'd called me Mom from the day she married Adam, sweetly, respectfully, but that evening, her voice trembled ever so slightly. I noticed her avoiding my eyes, and when I asked, "Everything okay, Beta?" she just nodded, then locked herself in her room for almost an hour. Later, she came out dressed like she was going somewhere. I thought maybe to the store, but when I asked, she hesitated. "Oh, just meeting a friend from college," she said. Forcing a smile, she left, and didn't return until midnight. I didn't tell Adam. He was on duty, a long overseas flight to London and back. I didn't want to distract him, but something in my heart whispered, "Watch closely." Over the next few days, I started noticing small things. Her perfume, stronger than usual. Phone calls she took in whispers. A new necklace she said was from a sale, and once, I found a small boarding pass stub in her purse. But not for Adam's airline. It read, Flight 913 Istanbul. Sarah had never mentioned traveling. When I asked her, she said, "Oh, that's from last year. Just old stuff I forgot to throw away." But the date was just 2 days old. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought of calling Adam to tell him what I saw. But what could I say? That his wife might be lying, that she might be hiding something while he flew through skies believing everything was perfect? No, I couldn't break his peace like that. Mothers protect, even from truth. So I waited, I prayed, I watched. 3 days later it happened. The call. It was early morning. The kind of dawn where the world feels fragile and still. I was preparing breakfast, frying eggs, buttering toast, when my phone buzzed. The screen flashed Adam. Smiling, I answered cheerfully, "Good morning, my pilot." But his voice on the other end wasn't cheerful. It was sharp, uneasy, almost trembling. "Mom," he said, then paused. "Are you sure Sarah's home?" I frowned, glancing at the closed bedroom door down the hall. "Yes," I said. "She's still sleeping." "Why?" There was a silence, a long one. Then Adam whispered words that made my hand go numb. "Mom, that's impossible. She's on my flight." For a moment, the world around me seemed to vanish. The sizzling pan, the ticking clock, even the morning light. Everything froze, suspended in disbelief. What I breathed. Adam's voice cracked. "She's here. Seat 1 for A." "Mom, I swear it's her." Same face, same voice. She even smiled when she saw me. "But she doesn't know me." I felt my knees weaken. "Adam, that can't be." I thought it was a coincidence. He said quickly, "But Mom," I looked again. "It's Sarah, exactly her." But when I greeted her, she looked at me blankly, like a stranger. She said her name was Nadia. The air left my lungs. "Nadia?" "Yes," Adam said. "And Mom, she has a passport. I saw it during boarding. It says Nadia Khan from Karachi. But she looks exactly like Sarah. Even the mole near her collarbone. It's there." My hands trembled so hard I had to grip the counter for balance. "Adam, maybe you're mistaken. Maybe it's someone who just looks like." He cut me off. "No, Mom, it's her." His voice broke. But she pretended not to know me. She's acting like a completely different person. At that moment, the door creaked behind me. I turned and froze. Sarah stood there, dressed in her robe, hair tousled, rubbing her eyes. Mom, who are you talking to? My heart skipped. If she's here, then who's on that plane? Adam, I whispered, forcing calm. He's calling before takeoff. She smiled faintly. Oh, tell him I said safe flight. And walked back into the kitchen to make coffee. I watched her, flesh, blood, breathing, right in front of me, while my son's voice whispered from the phone. Mom, she's right here, sitting on my plane. I could barely speak. Adam, she's here, in front of me. There was silence, then a low exhale. Mom, that's not possible. I'm staring at her right now. The words chilled my spine. The air in the kitchen grew heavy, as if time itself held its breath. Adam, I whispered, take a picture quietly. Don't let her notice. He didn't answer, only the faint hum of engines filled the line. Then, after a few seconds, a soft ding came through my phone, a message. I opened it, my heart nearly stopped. It was Sarah, sitting in an airplane seat, looking out the window, hair tied, same scarf, same face. Even the tiny freckle above her lip, the one I'd noticed just last night, was there. I turned slowly toward the woman in my kitchen. She was stirring her coffee, humming softly. Sarah, I managed, voice shaking. When did you wake up? She looked up, startled. A few minutes ago. Why? I stared at her. The image on my phone burned in my mind. Two identical women, one on a plane, one in my kitchen. What's wrong, Mom? She asked, confused. I forced a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Nothing, Beta. Just didn't sleep well. She nodded slowly and went to her room. The moment the door closed, I collapsed onto the chair. Was I losing my mind? For the rest of the day, I couldn't focus on anything. My hands shook with every cup of tea I lifted. Adam's flight would take hours to Dubai, and I waited for any update. Finally, late afternoon, my phone buzzed again. Mom, Adam's voice came through. Hoarse and tight. She's asleep now. I checked the manifest.com. Her name really is Nadia Khan. Pakistani ID. Karachi address. Everything checks out, but Mom, she's identical to Sarah. Exactly identical. I whispered, you said she didn't recognize you. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, I'm sorry, Captain. You must have mistaken me for someone else. Then smiled like nothing happened. He took a breath. Mom, what's happening? I closed my eyes. I don't know, my son. But I'll find out that night. When Sarah came for dinner, I watched her carefully. Every gesture, every word. She laughed lightly at a TV show, asked about Adam's schedule, and even mentioned she was planning to visit her friend next week. Not once did she act strange. Not once did she hint she had a twin, or a secret, nothing, but something about her eyes. Something in them looked a little too calm, almost aware, as if she knew something I didn't, as if she was playing along. When she finally went to bed, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the photo Adam had sent. Same woman, same smile, but two different worlds. And deep down, something told me, this wasn't just coincidence. It was a secret waiting to tear our lives apart. Sleep didn't come that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that photo, Sarah or Nadia, sitting on that plane, sunlight falling across her face exactly like it did in our kitchen window every morning. I told myself I'd wait until Adam came home. We'd talk face to face, look at that photo together, and make sense of it. But my heart, a mother's heart, wouldn't stay still. Something wasn't right, and deep down I knew Sarah, or whoever she was hiding something bigger than I could imagine. The next morning, I decided to test her. When she walked into the kitchen, still sleepy-eyed, I said casually, Adam called last night, said his flight went smoothly, even mentioned meeting a passenger who looked just like you. Her hand froze midair, the spoon halfway to her cup. Really? She asked, her tone light but her voice too careful. Yes, I said, studying her face. He said the resemblance was shocking. She forced a little laugh. Oh, I'm sure there are thousands of women who might look like me, Mom. Then she changed the subject. Do we have any more sugar? But I saw it. The flicker in her eyes. The small twitch at the corner of her mouth. Fear, or maybe guilt. The day moved in slow motion. She left for her friend's house again that evening. This time I followed her. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe the same instinct that once woke me up when Adam had a fever as a baby. A mother just knows. I waited a few minutes after she left, then grabbed my shawl and slipped into the street. She didn't take the bus. Instead, a silver car pulled up at the corner, and she got in. I followed at a distance, keeping to the shadows. The car wound through the city, past the market, past the hospital, and finally stopped in front of a small, nondescript guest house near the old railway line. She got out, looked around, then went inside. My heart was pounding. I waited almost 15 minutes before approaching the gate. Through a narrow window, I saw her in the lobby talking to a man. He was middle-aged, dressed neatly, with silver streaks in his hair. Something about the way she looked at him, soft, respectful, wasn't how a woman looks at a stranger. And when he reached across the counter to hand her a small envelope, she touched his hand gently, like they shared something unspoken. I strained to hear, but their voices were muffled. Then, just before she turned away, I caught a glimpse of the envelope, and the name scrawled on it, Nadia. My breath caught. I hurried back home before she could see me. At midnight, she returned quietly. She probably thought I was asleep. I heard her open a drawer, shuffle through papers, and then lock something away. The next morning, I pretended everything was normal, cooked breakfast, asked about her day, even smiled. But inside, my mind was racing. Who was the man? Why was she using another name? And how could she possibly be on that flight while also being here? 2 days later, Adam came home. I could see the worrying etched on his face even before he took off his cap. He hugged me tightly. Mom, I can't stop thinking about it. I saw her with my own eyes. I know, I whispered. Come inside. There's something you need to see. I told him everything about the guest house, the man, the envelope. He sat silently, running a hand through his hair, disbelief clouding his eyes. Do you think she's living a double life? He asked, voice low. I don't know, I said honestly. But something isn't right. He leaned back, eyes glistening. Mom, I love her. I thought she was my peace, my home, but now, I don't even know who she is. I reached across the table, holding his trembling hand. Then we'll find out together. That evening, while Sarah was out, Adam and I checked her drawer, the one she'd locked. Inside, we found a small pouch of jewelry, an unused SIM card, and an envelope marked Nadia. Adam hesitated, then opened it. Inside were 2 photographs, one of Sarah, smiling next to a man I'd never seen before. The other was older, a hospital photo of 2 newborn babies. On the back, in fading ink, it read, Sarah and Nadia, born 1994. My breath hitched. Twins. Adam looked up, eyes wide. She never told me, he whispered. I sat back, heart racing. It suddenly made sense. The identical face. The perfect match on the plane. The strange behavior. But why hide it? Why pretend the other didn't exist? Maybe, I said slowly, Nadia needed something from her. Or maybe Sarah was protecting her. Adam shook his head. Mom, that woman on the plane. She wasn't pretending. She really didn't recognize me. We decided to confront her. That night, as she returned home, we waited. She looked startled seeing us both awake. Everything okay? She asked. Adam stood. We need to talk. She frowned. About what? He showed her the photograph. About her. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears instantly. The kind of tears that come from wounds long buried. I was going to tell you, she whispered. Tell me what? Adam's voice cracked. That you have a twin sister? That she's living somewhere under a different name? She nodded slowly, trembling. Yes, her name is Nadia. We were separated as children. Sarah sat down, her voice shaking as she began to explain. When we were 5, our parents died in an accident. I was adopted by a family who could afford to raise me. Nadia wasn't as lucky. She grew up in foster homes. For years I tried to find her, but there were no records. It was like she vanished. She took a deep breath, eyes distant. 2 years ago, she found me. She said she wanted to start over. I thought she meant reconnect, but I realized later she wanted something else. What? Adam asked. Sarah's lips trembled. She wanted my life. I felt chills run through me. She started copying everything, my hair, my clothes, my voice. She'd show up at my office pretending to be me. She said it was fun. I told her to stop, but she laughed. Sarah looked at Adam, her eyes desperate. You have to believe me. I didn't know she was on your flight. I swear. Adam sat still, processing. So the woman I saw was Nadia, Sarah whispered. She's been following me for months. I think she wants to take over completely. My throat went dry. Sarah, did you ever tell the police? She shook her head, tears spilling. I couldn't, she's my sister. I thought she'd get help. I didn't want to destroy her. That night, Adam barely spoke. He kept pacing by the window, replaying every moment from that flight. Every word that woman, Nadia, had said to him. I could see his heart breaking silently. To him, it wasn't just a mystery. It was betrayal tangled with pity. I tried to pray, but my words wouldn't form. How could love, blood, and lies get so tangled? The next morning, Sarah left for work. Adam decided to visit the airline office, to check the passenger list again, see if there were any leads about Nadia's whereabouts. By noon he called me. Mom, he said, his voice grave, you won't believe this. Nadia just checked in for another flight. To Lahore, she's using a new passport. My heart sank. What are you going to do? I have to talk to her, he said. I'll find her before she disappears again. Adam, no, I pleaded. Let the authorities handle this. but he was his father's son, stubborn and brave to a fault. I need to know the truth, Mom, for Sarah, for all of us. That evening the house felt too quiet. I sat by the window, waiting for his call. It came just before midnight. Mom, his voice trembled. I found her. My heart leapt. Adam, where are you? At the airport lounge. She agreed to meet me. But Mom, he paused, then whispered. She says she's Sarah, and she swears she's never met me before. My chest tightened. Adam, come home now, please. He sighed. I will, after I get some answers. An hour passed, then two, no call. I tried him again and again, no answer. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Loud, warning, distant. Finally, around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. It wasn't Adam. It was the airline. A trembling voice said, Ma'am, there's been an incident. The moment the airline officer said, there's been an incident, my heart forgot how to beat. Is Adam all right? I asked. Yes, ma'am, the woman hurried to assure me. He's safe, just very shaken. He's asking for you. By the time I reached the airport, dawn was breaking, gray lights spilling over empty runways. Inside the private lounge, I saw my son sitting alone, his uniform rumpled, eyes red as if he hadn't blinked in hours. I went straight to him. He stood up and folded into my arms without a word. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. Mom, I met her, Nadia. He told me everything. He'd found her sitting quietly in a corner cafe of the terminal, hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She looked exactly like Sarah but softer somehow, like someone carrying years of invisible weight. When she saw him, she smiled kindly, not recognizing him at all. I asked if she knew Sarah, he said. She hesitated, then nodded. Said Sarah was her sister, the lucky one. I listened, my hands gripping his sleeve. She said she'd only come to see me once, he continued, to understand why Sarah had the perfect life she never got. She didn't mean harm, Mom. She just wanted to know what it felt like to be seen, to be loved. He swallowed hard. Then she started crying. She said she was leaving the country for a while to get help, to fix her mind. She asked me not to tell Sarah until she was ready. For a long time we sat in silence. Then Adam whispered, she looked so much like her, Mom, but her eyes, they were full of apology. I brushed his hair gently. Sometimes the heart only mirrors what it misses, Beta. He nodded slowly. She gave me this. From his pocket, he pulled a folded letter. That night, when Sarah returned home, Adam and I sat her down. He placed the letter in front of her. Her hands trembled as she opened it. I watched her read in silence, eyes moving slowly over each line until tears blurred her vision. She looked up at us and whispered, she's gone to a clinic in Islamabad. She wants to heal. She said she's sorry for everything, for pretending, for frightening us, for taking what wasn't hers. Her voice cracked. She said she always envied my wings but forgot she had her own. For the next few days, the house felt different. Quieter, softer. The fear had faded, but in its place lingered a sadness, a tenderness almost painful to touch. Sometimes, I'd find Sarah sitting by the window, staring at the sky, whispering prayers for her sister. And sometimes, I'd catch Adam looking at her with new eyes, ones that saw not perfection, but fragility. Weeks passed. Then one evening, while Adam was preparing for a night flight, Sarah came to me with a small box. Inside was the photograph of the two newborn girls, the one we'd found in the envelope. I want you to keep this, Mom, she said softly. It reminds me that family isn't about who stays the same. It's about who forgives. I placed the photo on my bedside table, next to Adam's childhood picture. Two babies, two sisters, one lesson. That night, after Adam left for the airport, Sarah sat beside me and asked quietly, do you ever think we meet people for a reason, Mom? I smiled. Always. She nodded, tears glistening. Maybe Nadia met Adam so she could remember what kindness feels like. Maybe I met you so I could learn how love forgives even when it's scared. I reached out, held her hand. And maybe I was chosen to be your mother-in-law so I could learn that a mother's heart never runs out of space. A month later, a letter arrived, this time from a rehabilitation center. It was from Nadia. Her handwriting was shaky, but the words were steady. Dear Adam and Sarah, for the first time, I wake up without pretending to be anyone else. The doctors say healing is like flying, you have to let go of the ground. Tell Mom I still remember her tea smell from that morning. Tell her I'm learning how to be me. Love, Nadia. I pressed the paper to my heart and whispered a prayer for the girl who'd been lost between two lives. Adam came home that evening, holding a bouquet of lilac. For you, Mom, he said with a smile that finally reached his eyes. We sat together on the porch as the sun dipped low. Planes drew thin silver lines across the sky, his sky. He looked at me, thoughtful. You know, Mom, when I saw Nadia that day on the plane, I thought the world had gone mad. But now I think, Maybe it was just trying to show me how fragile we all are. I nodded. Sometimes, God lets us face the impossible so we learn the meaning of mercy. He took a deep breath, gazing at the horizon. I used to think flying was about distance. Now I know it's about perspective. That night, I couldn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't worrying, it was gratitude. I walked to the window and looked at the stars, wondering which one belonged to our story. Somewhere above the clouds, my sun was guiding hundreds of souls through darkness toward dawn. Somewhere on earth, a woman named Nadia was learning to live honestly. And somewhere between them, a quiet prayer connected us all. Epilogue. 6 months later, spring arrived early that year. Sarah had started volunteering at a mental health center, helping women who'd lost their way. She said it made her feel closer to her sister. Adam was promoted to senior captain, his name printed proudly on the airline board. He still called me for every flight. One evening, as I was watering my garden, the phone rang. Mom, Adam's voice came bright and calm. Guess who's on my flight today? I laughed softly. Don't tell me it's another look-alike. No, he said. It's Nadia. She's healthy, smiling, traveling with her doctors. She asked if I'd tell you she's flying home. Tears filled my eyes. Home, I repeated. Yes, he said. She said she's finally ready to go home to herself. When I hung up, the world felt full again. I sat on the porch, listening to the distant hum of engines fading into the sky, and thought about how strange life can be, how when impossible. Call had brought 3 hearts, closer than ever before. Maybe that's what faith is. Believing that even when we don't understand the route, we'll still land exactly where love meant us to be. And as the night settled around me, I whispered the same words I'd said when Adam was a boy. Fly safe, my son. Fly kind. And never forget, no sky is too wide for forgiveness.